As a lecturer, workshop leader, author, and spiritual consultant for over 30 years, Taylor E. Stevens invites us to explore a spirituality that is not only transformational, but also practical and applicable to the times that we're currently living in. Taylor plants seeds of awareness that encourages us to move beyond current limiting thoughts and beliefs. He inspires us to open up to follow our hearts over our heads, broadening and gaining more meaningful insights that lead to transcendent experiences within our day-to-day living. I have Taylor with us today. Taylor, how can we bring more spirituality into our day-to-day living?
Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to have this conversation. I guess for me, we bring more spirituality into our day-to-day living by realizing that our day-to-day living is our spirituality. I think we tend to separate those, all these different components of our lives. We have our family lives, we may have a profession, we may have, all of these different areas are all expressions, at least for me, of a spiritual reality that is everywhere present, even as it is a transcendent way of living. So this, as we are aware, this is our spirituality. How I am speaking to you, how we interact, this conversation, all of that it's all happening in this realm that we can call spirituality. It's life, everything. When I'm remembering, when I'm awake spiritually, everything is spirituality. Mm-hmm. Everything. I don't like to cook. I'm not a cook. Fixing dinner is spirituality. And when I can say, I don't like to cook, but I got to eat, let me do this. Let me be mindful of it. Let me be aware of what I'm doing.
Which helps you approach it with a whole different
It doesn't,
attitude,
and that's
outlook.
Absolutely, and that's an example of I'm imbuing the food with my energy. Everything we do, we're imbuing with energy. So if my mind is saying, I hate cooking, I hate chopping carrots, that energy is going into the food, which then will consume. So it's what energy am I bringing to it? And I don't think there's anything more rich and powerful, and to be able to live that way, to understand that I'm always emitting energy, always.
It's a non-stopping flow.
Yeah. There's no neutral. There's really no neutral. So it's like, okay, this is happening. This is very disturbing in this realm. But I'm going to choose how I participate in it. And back to the metaphysical perspective, a metaphysician believes that what we add energy to, what I focus on, and this is physics, what I focus on, I energize and I augment. Regardless of how I get to choose what that contribution, which I believe it's a contribution, what that's going to be. It's simple physics. So science and spirituality have merged. And now prayer is measurable.
Scientifically.
Scientifically, prayer is measurable. So I'm one of these people, people say, oh, you can't prove the existence of God. Have you looked around? Have you watched the instrumentation that measures our heart waves? I don't call it God, but it's the allness of spirit. It's the essence that responds to our attention. So we're each, if you want to use that word, we're each gods of our own world, of our own reality. And we get to choose how to show up. And how we show up affects all of creation.
And when we approach something with that awareness and that flow, and you just said it energizes it, that keeps going beyond.
It expands, absolutely. So we're holographically, each one of us is a hologram, a holotron. so that everything that's happening inside of me is happening in the entire world. And everything that's happening in the world is happening inside of me. Now, that's a practical spirituality.
Sounds like it could be so much simpler than it is.
When I stream forth a lot of ideas all at once, sounds like a lot, particularly if you've not ever been privy to this kind of thought system, but it's something that actually is intensely practical.
That's very inviting to hear. Practical.
It is for me. I get up at this ripe age. I get up every day, and my prayer, though I don't use a lot of words in prayer, the prayer of my heart is, how can I contribute to this day? What can I bring to this day? How can I transform the way that I see things so that what I see can be transformed? But it's all happening at the quantum level, at the level of physics. So again, spirituality is science, and science is spirituality, and it's psychology. All of these things are coming together. What is dying is religions.
That's true.
That's measurable. We have stats on that. They're really dying out. But I think in their place, I don't think they'll ever go totally away. And I'm not anti-religious at all. And a spirituality is transcendent of religion.
So it goes beyond.
Yeah, a religion is a map. Spirituality is the compass to the destination.
Beyond, more ultimate.
Yeah, and it's every moment of every day. Oftentimes, the tendency is to put religion in a place and keep it there. There. God, we've got you captured there, in that church, in that synagogue, there you are. Now we know where you are. As opposed to, wait, everything. Leaf just fell off a tree. That's spirit. It is the totality of what is real, even though it is transcendent. It is also practical and applicable when we are aware that we are expressions of the one spirit, that every time we interact mindfully, every time we are moving through our days in an awareness that we are in this realm of spirit and that we are comprised of spirit. It's not something to get to. We already are that. And so that awareness itself, being fully present, being present, this is an engaged, practical, applicable spirituality. I am acknowledging the spirit of you from the spirit in me. And so that interaction and interaction is a transcendent way of living our lives. So the most mundane thing, when we bring an awareness to it, is spirituality. That everything is spirituality. And as we grow in consciousness, we begin to recognize that even though our minds think in dualistic ways, it's all happening within a transcendent reality that is always one. That it's always spirit dancing, interacting, conversing. It is spirit experiencing itself through our forms.
Wherever it takes us.
Wherever it takes us. Sometimes when we're in a height of awareness and we're really feeling that awareness of spirits, the presence of spirit, right now, we're tuned into it because we're having this conversation about spiritual matters, if you will. Other times, we could leave this room and then we get into an automobile and we begin to drive and somebody cuts us off can cut us off from the awareness of the spiritual realm, which is in us, is in the person that cut us off. So it's all, even when it seems messy and unskillful and even to the point of being a hostile interaction, it's still happening within a realm of spirit.
So as encouraging beginning would be starting a day with simply an awareness.
I think awareness is everything. I think awareness is another word for spirituality. Being aware that we are aware is a quantum leap in consciousness. And so holding that, being present to presence, right? That the spirit permeating everything that is spirit vibrating at the frequency of information, taking form. It's still at the level of essence, everything is spirit. Everything. But when we have enough awareness, when we remember that, we begin to see our world differently. We interact with our world differently. We begin to see things from a transcendent place in consciousness. And at the quantum level, seeing differently, holding a transcendent experience of what is happening changes what is happening. We're seeing it differently. We're holding a higher perspective. The hostile interchange on I-95, somebody cuts us off, right? But then we remember, we go, okay, wait, back to awareness, back to presence, back online. It's our own prescription. So we could look at the same thing. Now, we're of a very similar mindset. Somebody else could look at something happening in the world, the exact same things. We're two people looking at the exact same thing happening, but we can see it completely differently based on our own lens, our own prescription of how we see life. So if with a lot of practice, with a lot of dedicated time, energy, we begin to see differently and our world changes. Though what may be happening out there, it's still the same. Other people are seeing one thing, I'm seeing another. So the transcendent becomes practical based on how we see it.
From wherever, whoever is.
Absolutely. So each one of us, and this may be deeper than your question, we're always creating our own reality. Always. Not the external reality, the internal interpretation of the external. So to be able to see someone, let's say we see someone's really unskillful, quote unquote, bad behavior, but we look at it from a perception of this person is having a really difficult unconscious moment. I'm not going to hold that as their identity. I'm going to see them through the lens that says you are spirit and you're floundering. You're lost.
With almost compassion instead of criticism.
Absolute compassion. But see, that will only match how compassionate we are with ourselves, which is perhaps the very height of a transcendent and practical spirituality is a self-caring, is the ability to say, you know what? You look at somebody behaving badly and you know what? I can do that too. I am one thought away from that same behavior. So when you know that, you can hold the world in your heart, right? We don't get caught in the mind's interpretation. We begin to question, what am I saying about this? It's not actually what's happening. It's what I'm saying about it that determines my reality. I've
heard you reference, that's your story, that's my story. Is that parallel to what you're referring to?
I've been counseling people for 30 plus years, and people will come to me and they sit down and they'll say, now, I know this is just my story. As if to diminish it somehow. But in this realm, everything is story. Everything is a product of commentary and narrative. We get to make things mean what we get to make things mean. So just because I'm saying something about and calling it reality does not mean it's true. And most often it's not. It's something that we're making up. And so you look at our world today, so you say the way the world is today. So the world is an outpicturing of battling ideologies. So it's not like people don't have opinions, ideologies, positions. It's that they believe them. They're identified with them. And so we show up with our armor on. I'm right, you're wrong, which is the antithesis of a spiritual reality. And we forget, wait a minute, wait. We heard this a lot 4 years ago. Some chose to shut down for the pandemic. And we would hear, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. And there were times that for me, that didn't feel comforting. Because the way some people were showing up, based on their identified ideology, I didn't find comforting. But I could step back and question that in myself.
I mean, to apply that, be able to put those lenses on to see the world with.
Yeah. And it's a process. It takes practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
A lot of practice.
The old joke in New York, right? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Oh, you take 57th? No, practice. So people have said to me, oh, I'd love to have your spirituality. And I go, oh, wow. Okay, get up 2 hours earlier, journal, meditate, do the, oh, no, I don't really want your spirituality.
Or perhaps for today, the thought of start with awareness.
Start with awareness, yeah. Because spirit is awareness.
That's a great thought. Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start my day with that, an awareness.
Awareness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Taylor's message has been brought to us by Rich Heart Enterprise, a new division of Phelps Media Group. If you enjoyed our conversation today and would like to experience Taylor's message in person, join us Sundays at Unity of the Palm Beaches.